This is TEDxOshkosh TV, a complimentary extra to the annual TEDxOshkosh in-person event. In each episode of the show, we'll learn more about a past TEDxOshkosh speaker, how their talk idea is spread, and the change it has inspired.
Welcome to the TEDxOshkosh TV. I'm Grace Lim, your host. Today we have Gabrielle Lulloff, the WANCE Queen of Wisconsin, who gave a joyful talk in 2021, urging people to join the WANCE revolution. Before we get to our guest, I'm going to show you a couple clips from her talk.
It's a combination of dancing while you walk, putting a little extra pep in that step. It's the subtle art of not giving a hoot while also spreading good vibrations. And it really is that simple. You literally just have to dance as you walk. Another theory I developed on this venture is that if you can WANCE on a busy street, you can do anything.
In your talk, you said, if you can WANCE, you can do anything. Mm-hmm. Those are powerful words.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
So I guess at the simplest form, what I mean is that fear is our biggest obstacle to our truest potential. So when you take that out of the equation, you're essentially unstoppable. And WANCE, dancing, walking on the street, you're really putting yourself out there. It's very intimidating to do that. And a lot of fear that people carry they can be somewhat irrational. They're stories we make up in our head. It's a lot of times what other people think of you. So when you're able to WANCE, go out on the street and do whatever, be a child at heart, what is there to fear after that? After you've put yourself out there and you do the thing that scares you the most, there's really nothing to be afraid of after that.
Wow. The idea of just putting yourself out there.
Yes, exactly.
It is scary.
Intimidating, yes.
So what made you decide to pitch this to TEDx?
So I was actually advertised to it on Facebook, and I was in the mind frame of this at this time of, you got to do what scares you. All growth happens when you're scared. You don't grow in your comfort zone. So I was just in that mindset. So when I saw the advertisement, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it. And I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily think I was going to get it. I thought it was a little bit too whimsical of an idea. So I was kind of like, well, what are the odds? So when I got it, I was like, well, all right, we're doing this. And I did.
So tell me about the history of WANCE. I mean,
Sure.
How did when did you start WANCing?
Sure. I like to call WANCE my COVID baby, for lack of a better word. COVID was a dark time for a lot of different people, and I was no different in that circumstance. So I was just really looking for ways to, find my happiness, get out of this dark place. I was, I took a free class from Yale, The Psychology of Happiness, that changed a lot of my perspective of what happiness really means at its core. I started doing some more mindfulness practices, meditation, but I found that super boring, not for me. But I thought, there's other ways to do this. So I was really integrating nature and movement into my life, and I could really feel it making a difference. I was going on walks every single day and listening to music, and I would start dancing on my walks, but I would stop every single time a neighbor was mowing its lawn or a car would drive by. And then one day I'm just like, why am I stopping this joy with me? It feels so good. And the reactions I would get was just so powerful. Like, people were dancing with me. I could tell I was making people's days. So I just kept doing it, and I was like, let's do this as a group. And that's kind of how it was born.
So you said you were taking walks every day because of our COVID restrictions?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, you lost some contact with people?
Sure, I was furloughed, so there was that extra time. I was a new mother at the time, so dealing with some stuff there too. So I needed to get out of my head. And I was on my phone constantly at the beginning of my furlough during COVID. I was doing jackpot casino, I think, for 3 to 4 hours at a time. I'm like, okay, I am not, this isn't good for my mental health. So I just needed to make a decision to change that. And I did, and going out in nature and movement was the start of it, and then WANCE was born after that.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So how come you didn't, do like the traditional, exercise where you go for a jog or just a regular walk, or do jazzercises at home?
Well, I think and don't get me wrong, I'll do jazzercise at home. I was Richard Simmons. I grew up doing Richard Simmons, sweating to the oldies.
Yes.
So that was kind of not necessarily my inspiration for this, but to me, that's what a workout was. Like, it was fun. We're doing Let's Sweat. Like, it was always enjoyable. And there were so many activities, like, I felt good when I worked out, but going to the gym was not enjoyable for me, so I didn't do it, and it wasn't fun. So I'm like, I need to make this fun if I'm going to be consistent and integrated into my life. So yeah, that's really what I did with that.
So you're doing these walks, you started dancing, and I mean, do you dance at home, like while you're cooking, or?
I would say I whip out a WANCE pretty organically at home. Dancing, music, that was always kind of a part of my childhood. So yeah, that was very organic. I always wanted to be in dance class. I still give my mom a hard time about not putting me in dance class because I tell her I'd be so much graceful if I was.
So when you gave that talk, you came out wancing.
I sure did, yes.
So what was that like to wance and by yourself on the stage with a live audience and cameras on you?
Sure. Talk about putting yourself out there. I think that was probably my big... So it started with WANCE. I put myself out there. So I've been kind of putting myself into that fear perspective a lot, and I feel like the growth has just come with it. But yes, that was very, very intimidating to do. I was very out of breath. And one thing you didn't see is there was actually an audio glitch. So I came out wancing twice. The first time was not captured on camera, but the second time was. So I was very out of breath that time. So one thing I could change, it would be take a deep breath.
Okay. So I just thought that you were incredibly brave.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, that was just something I said, man, she is fearless,
Thank you.
So, like you said, you would take a deep breath. Anything else that you would have changed about your talk?
I think that was the biggest one. Slowing down. I think at the beginning, there's so many nerves when you get on stage and you see a big audience, the lights are in your face. So just taking that deep breath before starting, I think would have made a huge difference for me. I would have just taken in the moment. But I think about a minute in, I took that deep breath and everything kind of went a lot smoother after that. I was like, okay, I'm in my zone. We got this.
Awesome. How much did you practice?
Oh, I was practicing a lot. I don't think you can practice too much to do a 12-minute speech in front of people. It took me a while to get into the flow of the memorization, but I just did chunk by chunk practice. It was every single day. I was definitely devoting at least an hour to probably 5 days a week to this. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah, it is, but it's worth it.
You made it look effortless.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Besides being out of breath.
No one noticed, for sure.
Oh,
so let me ask you though, when you think of TED Talks or TEDx Talks, I mean, before you pitch your own idea, what did you think those were? Like, I mean, those kind of talks that you see that are being promoted, and
I guess I'd look at it as niche inspiration. I think what I love the most about TEDx or TED Talks is just that niche that you're looking for, that's that tiny glimmer of inspiration or just a certain topic that you're looking for. You just get a world of insight and perspective from one person. And I think that was intimidating for me because I was like, well, who am I to give this? There was definitely that intimidation factor after watching so many wonderful TED Talks. It was like, what do I have to say? And then it's like, no, I do have a lot to say. So yeah, it's cool to give those perspectives a voice because you don't get to hear that as often as I think the world needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened after you gave this talk? I mean, did anything change? I mean, what kind of feedback did you get?
I think that was probably the coolest part about doing the TED Talk was the personal stories that were shared with me after, of whether there was somebody who lacked confidence or had social anxiety, or the little things that they were doing in their life to try to overcome those fears that they had. So that was probably one of the coolest moments of the TED Talk, was just hearing and sharing those stories. And it's just like, we're not different. We're just not so different at all. And we all have those same struggles, and we can talk about it, and it gives that space to talk about it. And I love that so much.
So it's not just about walking while dancing. I mean,
No.
It's bigger. It's more than that.
Absolutely. And I think that was the biggest point of my TED Talk. Like, I definitely talked about what WANCE was, and I think there's those obvious health benefits of exercise and movement, but there are so many benefits that you don't see. And that's really what the essence of the TED Talk is. Even if you don't have the courage to WANCE, how can you implement that into your life? How can you follow your joy, or just integrate fun into your life or let go of what other people think of you, and just those little elements that really created WANCE, how can you integrate that into your life?
So, how have you changed since giving this talk?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I feel pretty unstoppable in general, and that doesn't sound very humble to say, but I mean, you know, it started with WANCE, but when you do public speaking and you put yourself out there like that, I mean, what's scarier than public speaking? I mean, when you just keep putting yourself out there, I would say, yeah, I'm a much more confident person since I've done the TEDx talk. And confidence is one of those things that just boomerang throughout your entire life and affect you in so many different ways. Gave me the confidence to apply for a new job. I have a new career position and growing WANs and doing other talks. I guess I feel pretty darn unstoppable, Grace.
Watch out.
Watch out.
Awesome. So your revolution has gotten some attention. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. And the best part is all of this is very organic. I'm a little embarrassed to say sometimes the hardest part of WANCE for me is the marketing, because I am a marketer. But I think because I'm doing it all day long, that's the part that I'm like, okay, I don't feel like doing that as much. So, you know, I didn't do a press release for it. This was just all word of mouth. Big, and I think St. Paul, it really took off. I'm not even really sure where the word of mouth started there. But we had 2 really great interviews last year with 2 wonderful publications in St. Paul. I've done Local 5 Live in the Green Bay area because we partnered with Titletown. I was a guest on a podcast talking about WANCE and branding and other elements. So definitely getting the word out there, and it's all been very organic and natural. So if I start putting some real hard work into this, it'll, who knows where we'll go from there.
It's going to be a tsunami.
I hope so. That'll be fun.
You know, other people have started their own WANCE locally, right? And their own neighborhoods. Or
yeah, I have a group chapter who started it in Washington, D.C. So they're not super consistent, but I think they're going out there once a month. I got an email today about someone who wants to start it in Minneapolis, so having a Minneapolis and St. Paul chapter. So it's great because people are coming to me and like, I want to start this in my area. And that was the goal of the whole entire thing, for it to grow organically and people just being genuinely interested in seeing the benefits on their own without me having to do a 12-minute public speaking talk about it.
Tell us a little bit about the people who WANCE with you.
Oh, the best people in the world are WANCers. Like, there's not... Everybody who comes to WANCE, I swear, is just the most beautiful soul in the world. They just... WANCE attracts great people. There's just no doubt about that. I have made such wonderful friends through this experience. And yeah, they're all happy people who want to see good in the world. And they want to be a part of that movement. So yeah, it's a great group of people who come to WANCE.
So when you say come to WANCE, what does that mean? Are you WANCing on the streets?
I have a big speaker that I carry with me. It's got great volume, and it connects to 50 other speakers if I needed to grow. And I just carry the speaker, and I have a great playlist, which is a science in itself, is finding the best music that, you know, keeps the energy high. And we just walk about 25 minutes one way, 25 minutes the other way, and we get people joining, strangers joining us. We get people honking. We get people dancing from across the street, and that alone is worth it.
You're like the Pied Piper.
I like that. I am like the Pied Piper.
The happy Pied Piper, yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
No, that's great. So the people who seek you out, I mean, do they, you know, after the WANCing session, are they more energetic? Is there a lot of laughter?
I love the reactions after WANCE. And they're always so genuine. Just a few weeks ago, I had a gal who was in tears because she was so proud of herself for making her steps for the day, because she had never made her steps for the day before. But this gave her the opportunity. She's like, I have never had so much fun in my life. People just feel alive. There's a rush of energy that that it's really hard to explain that after WANCE, but the energy is electric. There's something magical about a big group of people just having fun, letting loose, not caring what other people think, and lighting up the street.
You know, what advice would you give to people who are thinking that they would like to do something like what you did, not necessarily, you know, give a talk about WANCing,
sure,
but, you know, give a talk at TEDxOshkosh or other TEDx.
Do it. Put yourself out there. If fear is the reason you're not doing it, then that's a poor excuse in my opinion, because confidence is a boomerang effect. You're going to feel there's so much power in your words, and you do have a voice, and there is a lot that you can share, and your perspective is worth hearing. And what I've learned is there isn't an idea that's too crazy, because I did think mine was too crazy at the time, and it wasn't, and it's grown so much since. So yeah, that's easy. Do it. That's my advice.
Okay. All right. So, what's next for you? I mean, you have the WANCE, it's growing. I mean, are you thinking there are other things you want to take on, or?
Oh, yes. I yes to all of it. There's so much more I want to take on. I do really want to focus on WANCE and give it a good plan for scalable growth, because I think that is the issue here is I started WANCE, so I can't be at every single WANCE. So I need to build something that is scalable. My biggest goal is to turn this into a nonprofit eventually. And that way I think it'll be because funding is tough too, because I do this all out of my own pocket. So I think I could do a lot more with a lot more funding. So if I turned it into a nonprofit, that I'd be able to promote it and be able to spread it. And so once I get there, that's my next step, is nonprofit. And I'm in the mind frame of going with the flow with it and see what happens next. And I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm a terrible dancer. I mean, am I?
I don't believe you. I've seen you WANCE. You were excellent.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, at your talk.
Yes.
It was the lunch break. Tell us a little bit what happened after that.
Okay, I may have said that there was a part that was the coolest part of my talk, but that was definitely the coolest part about doing it. Because after I did my TEDx talk, everybody from the audience was invited to WANCE from the location to where we were eating lunch. So I don't know how many people were WANCing with us. Over 100?
Oh, more than that.
That was probably my biggest group of people WANCing. So the bigger numbers, the more magical and more powerful it is. So yes, we had a big group of people WANCing, and that, I think I had tears down my eyes. It was just, that's my dream.
I gotta say, I was WANCing with you, and you were carrying that or pulling that speaker.
Yes, yep.
And people were just dancing. I mean, and all ages were dancing.
Yes.
That was truly
cool to see that. Yeah. You don't see that unless you're at a family wedding and you're 3 sheets under the wind. So it's great to be able to bring that fun atmosphere into everyday life. If there's a song on, I can't help but move to it.
All right. Well, you know what? Thank you, Gabrielle, for spreading the love of WANCE to all of us. And thank you for joining us on this episode of TEDxOshkosh TV. Until next time, this is Grace Lim, and WANCE on.
Visit TEDxOshkosh.com to view the complete talks of all past TEDxOshkosh speakers, as well as more episodes of TEDxOshkosh TV.